So I had been a professional actor in America. I was SAG and working on my equity card and making enough money that I didn't have to have a side hustle and get my insurance paid for by SAG. So I thought I was doing okay. You don't need a whole lot of money when you're young, but I was really happy with the way things were going. And then I met this hot German guy,
Yeah.
ended up in Germany. And honestly, I thought my career was over. And that's when I got cast in the Hallmark Christmas movie, A Heidelberg Holiday. And so I was like, okay, maybe a little bit too far in the sweet side. Time to pull back just a little bit. I have a brand statement for myself as an actor. So I play high status, morally ambiguous women with a fierce heart. So here's the thing though. We all have a vibe, right? We all have what I call your energetic signature. Feeling like, oh, I get it. I've been trying to breathe underwater for 16 years. This is my element. These are my people.
Welcome back to another episode of Reinventing Life After 50. Today, I have a special guest, Anne Alexander Cedar, with us. Anne's story is one of reinvention and pursuing your passions regardless of age. She's an actor who reignited her career in Germany, where she can be seen on Hallmark, Netflix, and others. She now helps others overcome barriers and achieve their dreams. Let's hear about Anne's incredible journey. Anne, welcome in. Tell everybody where you're calling in from and
Hey, Scott. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I'm calling in from Munich. I'm still here
oh
30
my,
years later. In fact, I just got my German citizenship about a month ago.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. 30
Yeah.
years. She's got it. Yeah.
Only took me 30 years. No
Only
big
took
deal.
30.
Right. Right.
So my wife is from Toronto and from Toronto, Canada. And so we're both 52. And she didn't get her citizenship until a few years back. And she really did that to because she was named executor of her parents' estate. So when they passed away, because the taxation kind of thing. And so that's really one of the really main reasons why she became a U.S. citizen, was to kind of protect that. I think she would have just maintained her Canadian,
I mean,
s-
honestly, it didn't really matter. I
yeah,
have a permanent residency here in Germany. So but it does make it easier for me to work outside of Germany.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And I have lost roles and not been able
Yeah.
to audition for things because I didn't used to have the EU passport. But
Mm,
now I do. I have both. I'm still an American. I'm an American German.
yeah.
That's how, yeah.
Yeah.
You can take the girl out of America, but you can't take the America out of the girl.
So where are you originally from in the States? I don't know that we
Uh,
talked about that in Discovery
no,
Call.
I don't think so. No, I was born and raised in Detroit.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I grew up well, I mean, I kind of grew up all over Detroit, but the place that I think of as home is Lafayette Park and Indian Village. And
Ah,
Lafayette Park was designed by Mies van der Rohe. Do you know who that
mhm.
is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. The grandfather of modern day skyscrapers.
absolutely.
And the way I always described Lafayette Park, it was like Sesame Street in glass and steel.
Uh,
It was really nice. Yeah.
that's interesting. So let's kind of get into, some of these kind of the first questions that I kind of think of. So, obviously we talked about acting there a little bit ago. You put your career on hold, and you just mentioned it for nearly 30 years and decided
No,
to
for 16 years.
16
16.
years. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
been there 30 years, right? For 16 years. Okay. For 16 years.
Yeah.
And you relaunched in Germany. That's, you know, obviously
Well,
really brave to do, right? Can you tell us about the moment you realized you wanted to return to acting? What ignited that spark again? What was that?
yeah. Well, so I had been a professional actor in America. I was SAG and working on my equity card and making enough money that I didn't have to have a side hustle and get my insurance paid for by SAG. So I thought I was doing okay. You don't need a whole lot of money when you're young, but I was really happy with the way things were going. And then I met this hot German guy,
Yeah.
ended up in Germany. And honestly, I thought my career was over. I didn't speak German at the time, and you kind of have to be able to communicate, in the language to act. And a couple of years after our son was born, I saw a poster for the American Drama Group in Munich. So I made an appointment. I went and auditioned, and the guy was like, well, welcome aboard, and I was, yes, thinking that's fantastic. And then he pulls out a calendar and starts showing me the touring dates. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I have a baby. There's no way I can. So I felt terrible. I stood up, I apologized, and I'm just about to close the door behind me. And on a whim, I leaned back in and I said, do you happen to know anybody in Munich who I could contact? And he gave me 2 names, and these 2 names became pivotal in launching my voiceover career. So I had done voiceover in America once in a while, but it wasn't like my mainstay. My mainstay was really much more theater, and I had gotten my SAG card through a commercial. And then, so that was amazing. And I had an amazing voiceover career here in Germany for probably a good 20 years, which led to presenting, like doing the intros and outros for TV shows, corporate shows, those, all of that kind of stuff. But none of that was acting. And that's, it wasn't very fulfilling.
It didn't scratch that itch, right? Didn't
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. It was always fun, and it was flexible, and it was lucrative, but it wasn't, it just didn't scratch that itch. That's a perfect way to say it. So my son and I had a standard movie date on Friday nights. At this point, he's about 16 years old. And he comes to me on Thursday and he's like, Mom, do you mind if I hang out with my friends on Friday? And as a matter of fact, going forward, if I never hang out with you again,
That's the thing we always fear as parents, right? I've got a 22-year-old son and a 16-year-old, and my 16-year-old still, my son does too, to an extent, but it's like, when is that day coming? You fear it.
Soon, Scott. It's coming soon. Yeah. The good news is we did our job, right? When that day comes, then you go, okay, I did my job. The bad news is you did your job, but it was really, honestly, and my husband, I think, was on a golfing trip that weekend. So it was like I had the whole weekend in front of me. And for the first time since I became a wife and a mom, I had a chance to think about, well, what do I want to do? Because we had a very traditional marriage. I was in charge of the home and our son and dinner and getting our son up and all of that. But, so I really I put my family and my family first. Willingly. I'm not begrudging that or anything. I think just something for me, at any rate, the hormones kicked in, and that's what I wanted to do. And when I realized I was no longer needed in that capacity to that extent, it was like really an epiphany. It was like, oh, wow, well, this is not just weekends. This is like the rest of my life. And I was 47, and I'm still, I still have a lot of life to live. And what do I want to do? And on a whim, I sat down at my computer and I just Googled acting workshop Munich English. And one popped up.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I know, in Munich.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And one popped up. It was a coach out of LA, Kirk Baltz, the guy who gets his ear cut off in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, him.
Yeah. He was great. Really good coach. And there was one spot left. So I whipped out my credit card, I signed up, and I went there the next morning, like all excited, like not knowing what to expect. I didn't know if he was good or not. I didn't know that he was the guy from Reservoir Dogs. I didn't know anything. I just saw it and I took it. And I left that workshop 3 days later. It was amazing. Feeling like, oh, I get it. I've been trying to breathe underwater for 16 years. This is my element. These are my people. And it was kind of like a no turning back moment. And I came home and I told my husband, I need to get back into acting. I need to relaunch my career. And he didn't know what it meant. He didn't know me as like an actor. And even though I was doing voiceover and presenting, he used to tell people I was a translator, which I never did. He used to piss me off, I have to say. But anyway, and so he just never got it. but he doesn't come from this world.
Right.
So when I said to him, I want to relaunch my career, I think he's going,
Well,
all right, babe, you're 47, but good luck with that. And my first hurdle was I was very aware that I was rusty, right? And being an actor is like being an athlete or being a musician. You have to stay in shape, right?
mhm.
So I was rusty, and that was the first hurdle. But often your 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 hurdle, your obstacle is the key to the solution.
Mhm.
So I realized I needed training. And I could either fly to LA, fly to New York, fly to London and get that training, but that was obviously going to be very expensive, time consuming. I was still a mom getting my kid up for school every morning. And so it would have kept me from doing that more than once or twice a year. Or I could figure out how to get the training I needed in Munich.
Mm.
And that's what I decided to do. And I started reaching out to coaches in all three of those places and organizing workshops here in Munich because I knew that if I could just bring them in, all I needed was a handful of other actors to make it viable for me.
Right. Right.
And my only intention originally was just to like not pay more than I would pay in Munich.
Mhm.
But what very quickly ended up happening was I was getting the training for free. I was building an amazing community because I didn't have those connections before. And I was earning like anywhere between, 1,000 and 2,000 per workshop. So I was doing like 1 to 2 a month. And then I was organizing workouts, was what I called them, in between with the actors who had taken the workshop so that we could practice what we were learning. So
Mhm.
I was like working out 5 times a week,
Mhm.
which was great. And I did that for about a year and a half. And another interesting thing came from that is I started to get authority.
Mm.
And I didn't want it at the time because when you have authority, you don't get the feedback. People are afraid to critique you,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so I really had to fight for my place. Like, no, I'm learning just like you guys. There's the expert right over there, not me. So, um, but it was interesting and came in useful, obviously, later on.
Yeah.
And then I launched my career, did all the things that I had done when I was a young woman, got an agent, got on the casting director's radars, and then I waited, right? That's kind of what we're told to do. Like you make yourself known to everybody, and then you maybe send out a blast, quarterly or something, but that's about it. And at this point, I'm around 50, and I'm thinking, there's got to be a better way. I
Mm.
mean, time's a ticking here, people, right? And I also knew I was dealing with some limiting beliefs of my own.
Mhm.
So that's my limiting belief around my age. Even though I said, like, one of the things was one of the revelations that I had very early on, because people were giving me a lot of the raised eyebrow. You're going to do what at how old, and as an American and German, and okay, you think that's going to work? And, I was getting a lot of that kind of stuff. And what I quickly realized was fear never goes away.
Mhm.
But whereas maybe I would have let it stand in front of me and bully me or block me or keep me from doing what I wanted to do, now I said, you are welcome to walk on this journey with me, but you are not going to stand in front of me.
Mhm. You utilized it as a tool. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just kind of the same thing. What that makes me kind of think of is the different emotions that we have as humans, right? That's fear, ego, all that kind of stuff. They're all there and serve a purpose, but we have
Hmm.
to be in control of it and not be a co-pilot in our lives, right? Be intent
Yes.
driving our lives. Kind of going back to something you were talking about, you said, the challenge and the hurdle. I go to this quote always pops in my head whenever I hear that. The obstacle is the way. That's where you learn, right?
So true. Each and every time, Scott, the obstacle was the key to the solution.
Yeah, it's the gift. And I think what many people do because people do everything they can to avoid pain, right? So I think many people will avoid it instead of listening to it and say, okay, it made me feel this type of way for some reason. What is that? There's something I either need to work on. I need to get through this. And instead of being a victim of it, switch it and say, hey, thank you for this obstacle. Now, and then you become a student, and it switches that mindset, that limiting belief you may have around it, to being, okay, how can I figure this out? Because as humans, we're pretty damn resilient, right? We can figure just
Totally, and resourceful,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And often, I think for me, the question I always ask myself is, well, here's the problem. How can I get around it
Yeah.
or get
Yes.
over it or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
But the question is not like in Germany, there's this phrase, das geht nicht.
Mm,
It means that's not going to work. That doesn't, forget it. It's like
mhm,
that kind of a thing, right? And so they're very quick to say that won't work.
mm.
And I was like, of course it will. Everything works.
Mm.
Everything, like, who is it? Oh, I can't think of her name. The one who always says everything is figure outable.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know who I mean,
I
right? Yeah. I
know.
can't think of her name right now. Marie Forleo. Marie
Yeah.
Forleo. Everything is figure outable. And it's so true that if you give yourself the opportunity to answer that question, but so many people shut it down before they even get that far.
Hmm.
They stop at das geht nicht, right? And instead of saying, okay, I don't see the solution right now, so none of the traditional ways might work, but what else can I do?
Hmm.
And I think brainstorming and sleeping on it and brainstorming and sleeping on it, letting your subconscious do some work, like putting it out there, letting other people know. Like if I had never asked that theater director, do you know anybody else?
Yeah.
Right?
Like where would
Then,
yeah, it's interesting. And I think too, like I think again, going back to that challenge, people don't want to work through it because it's comfortable not doing it, right? Doing the work and not facing it because it's just easy. I mean, nothing. I mean, that's again a very simple saying, right? Nothing worth having is easy. Whatever that saying is. It's
yeah,
kind of, I'm at the gym every day by 4:15, and I love it, but also I'm there to accomplish something. I want growth
yeah,
and always try to be a little bit better each time.
yeah,
Uh, it's hard to do that every morning. I see guys in there that come in and you can tell they don't want to be there, but
yeah.
they show up. And so let me ask you this. So you had you had 1.5 years or so that you said you went through these workshops, were doing all these things before you kind of got, was it that you felt like you actually needed that amount of time, but what was part of that potentially limiting beliefs, like I need to do, you were afraid to actually.
Well, honestly, I didn't even I no, I don't think it was in this case. I
Mm,
really was rusty. I mean, imagine an athlete not well, an athlete you can get your form back pretty quickly
mm,
if you were in form, right?
mhm.
But a dancer, a musician, or
Yeah.
somebody, right? So it wasn't just the skills. And yes, maybe there was some limited. Maybe, let me be honest. Yeah, maybe there was some. There was definitely some insecurity
Yeah.
in my craft,
Mm,
and so I definitely needed those workshops to gain that confidence again.
mhm,
Like, yes, I can act. I'm good. You
mhm.
know, and feeling that and really like feeling that. And so I probably needed it just to get that far, but I didn't even know where to start. I
Mm.
had no industry contacts. I didn't
'Cause
know
it'd
who
been so
were.
long, right? They just yeah, it'd been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have any current show reel material, right? That's your calling card as an actor, is your headshot and your show reel material. I
Mhm.
had nothing.
Mm.
So I was literally starting from
Starting
ground
over.
zero. Yeah, all I had was like my old SAG card. I
Yeah.
didn't even have the film that I had done, the films I had done when I was younger, because that stuff was on film and
Yeah.
was in my mom's basement and her basement flooded.
God.
Right? I mean, I'm 58. This we're not right. So it's a whole nother age.
Yeah.
So it, yeah, it was a lot of learning. It was
Mm,
like it was a completely new thing that I was starting, and how do I do it, and how do I build the contacts, and how do I get the material I need, and And all of that is a process,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many moving parts involved in being a professional actor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to me, what I kind of gather from this, if we were to kind of cliff note kind of that, is the biggest challenge was lack of contacts and knowing where to go, what to do to get yourself back into all that. But again, we're resourceful and we're resilient. And God, who would have thought a Google search would have turned up for you? So you're so
Well, it
far.
wasn't just that, to be honest. I also had this real limiting belief around my age,
Hmm.
right? Because even though I was like, no, you're going to walk beside me, it was there.
Hmm.
And especially as a woman, I have to say.
Yeah.
And, and when I was, the world treats you differently when you're young than
Hmm.
when,
Oh
as
yeah.
especially as a woman, right?
Hmm.
And I was getting to the age where I'm supposed to be invisible. Obviously, I'm not falling for that one, but you know, yeah. But it was like how my girlfriends were cutting off their hair, right, and starting to wear flat heels. I was like, no, no, thank you. And so the first thing I did to get over my own limiting beliefs was I became a life and career coach, but it wasn't because I wanted to coach anyone. I wasn't interested in that. I just wanted to understand what tools were to
Hmm.
get over my own limiting beliefs. But what that did for me was it was like an epiphany again. It was like this revelation. Well, oh, I can just adopt somebody else's framework and strategies and reduce my timeline on how long it would take me to learn things all by
So it's
myself.
like taking a role. Like you took a role. You were acting until you believed it, right?
In a no, I would say I was learning the tools to deal with my own limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
You know, I
Mm,
mean, for me, acting is about telling the truth.
mm, mm.
It's not about lying. People always assume, oh, you're an actor, you must be a great liar. But I think that we are all, for me, acting, I think of it like a faceted diamond. We as human beings are faceted diamonds.
Mm,
And as an actor, you are playing human beings, right? And
mhm,
each one of those facets represents a life that you could have lived, a road you could have taken, a choice you could have made. And as an actor, well, here, let me back up a little bit. So if you think about like an engagement ring diamond, so the top of that diamond, the crown of the diamond, that's what you're seeing,
mhm,
right? You're seeing the mask. I mean, you catch glimpses of the real me, of course, but you don't really know me,
mm,
right?
mhm,
Right. So you're getting a vibe, you're getting a feeling,
mhm,
but and what's contributing to that vibe, that feeling, are all those facets underneath the crown of the diamond,
mhm,
right? The really obvious things that you're seeing up top. And so as an actor, it's my job to find the facet that lets me understand and identify with what that person is going
mm.
through and kind of polish it and hold it up to the light.
You're trying to find that conduit so you could channel the best representation of that out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I was trying to get at with my statement, it wasn't well stated, was sometimes like I know that in my past when I wanted to be owning this media company for all these years, I had a vision of what that looked like, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I took on the kind of the persona of someone that had already been there, and it wasn't faking. It was like they've walked it. Let me do things kind of like that and take on that personality, kind of acting in a way so that I become that. Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was meaning by that statement a moment ago. Yeah.
Well, I do believe that there's like this flywheel of getting what you want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it begins with belief.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you don't believe, do the actions as if you do.
Right. That was the point. You said it so much better than I did.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. I just didn't do it very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Didn't
because
do it.
that belief will lead to an intention, not
Yeah.
just a wish, right? And an intention will move you into an action, and an action will give you confidence. Like me getting that training gave me the confidence I needed, and that will get you results. And
Mhm.
then it just keeps going and going and going and going.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I guess I should have used this story. It's an actual story. I've got a one of my clients. He came to me. He's a top sales rep, and he wants to be a sales manager and move up the ranks. And so, to make this kind of short, so it's not a long story, I basically finally got to the point and said, "Well, what kind of things do you do after your sales meetings? Like, what are those kind of things?" Well, I'd hang out in the sales room with the other sales guy, and we cut up and all that kind of stuff. I said, "Okay, that's fine." I said, "But you're not elevating yourself. What you need to do if you want to be that next level, spend that time in the room with the guys to have the fellowship or whatever. But you need to get around the people who you want to be."
Yeah.
Because you elevate yourself and then they get to hear you and see you in a different way. And so I said, you have to act like you're already doing it so that when the opportunity comes, it's just a natural that you're the one that gets it. And
Yeah.
so that's the same thing that it's a different way of saying what you just said. So
Right.
your story really illustrates that it's never too late to pursue your dreams. What advice would you give someone who feels they've missed their chance or too old to do something new or to start over?
Yeah. Well, first of all, a belief is just that. It is not a fact.
Mhm.
And often we have integrated these beliefs into our lives so much, what I call your BS, right? It's your belief system, but it's BS.
Mhm.
Like you may believe the sky is blue, but says who? Right now I'm looking at my sky. It's not blue.
Yeah.
It's, it's gray. And then, or what about during a sunset when it's purple and orange and pink and red and yellow and, or when there's a tornado and it's green, or, when there's no clouds and it's night and it's black. And I mean, or what about like that blue light we're seeing is just the way we human beings interpret that
Interpret it.
refraction,
Right. Yeah.
right? And there are beings, there are animals, living beings on this earth that don't see it the same way we see it. So just because you believe the sky is blue does not make it so.
Mhm.
And I think often we need to challenge our beliefs. So I have a little um, exercise that I always suggest people do around limiting beliefs. First of all, you have to become aware of these limiting beliefs. So you have to catch them, right? And I think, did you know we have 12,000 thoughts a day? And of that, roughly 9,000 of those thoughts are negative,
Yeah.
which
And
is
we repeat the
crazy.
same ones over and over daily.
Yes. And how casually
Yep.
we denigrate ourselves,
Mhm.
right? You forget your keys or your lunch or your purse, whatever,
Mhm.
stupid, idiot, moron.
Mhm.
You get step on the scale and you had a nice night the night before and you're 2 pounds heavier, you fatty, ridiculous slob, and we so casually put ourselves down
Mhm.
that we don't even realize we're doing it. And we so casually accept other people's fear
Mhm.
and incorporate that as a limiting belief.
Mhm.
Just because they're afraid to try something doesn't make it impossible.
Mhm.
So you have to, so I call this exercise catch, cancel, correct. And you have to catch that belief. And so what I suggest is you just make a diary for 24, 48 hours. And just each time you casually say something negative, write it down. Because I'm willing to bet you that you do it a lot more. Everybody does it
Mhm.
more than you realize. Then cancel it. For me, I say that does not serve me.
Right.
So, right. And it's something I often ask my clients as well. Does that serve you? Is that helping you to believe that? Is that, what is that doing for you? Or is it doing something against you?
Mhm.
Let's look at it for what it is and then correct it. So, whatever you need to do. So, for instance, we can talk about age, right?
Mhm.
So, look for the evidence to the contrary. And what I say here is, you remember in high school how we all had to get on the debate team, there was always like, then you would have to argue a point whether you believed it or not,
Right. Yeah.
but you had to research it and argue it. Well, play the contrarian to your own beliefs, play the devil's advocate to your own beliefs, and look for that evidence, because we are all walking around with confirmation bias, meaning that whatever we believe, we will find and see evidence of that.
Absolutely. You validate it. You
Yeah.
100% validate it. Yep. You absolutely do. Something you were talking about, like this belief thing, something that I tell my clients is kind of very similar. I call it acknowledge, address, and then act. So it's very similar to that.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then what I try to tell them to do is you can't ignore it because it's going to come back. You have to imagine. I take them through an exercise of actually imagining it like you've written it down, and you ball it up and you get rid of it. You go, it's going to be
Yeah,
a point, but
that's right.
you've done something to it to get rid of it, and you replace it with something. It's just like, okay, I have clients that come to me that want to lose weight, whatever. They want to, whatever. It almost always goes back to some emotional thing that happened to them when they were 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
That
Always.
we have to address. And so
Yeah.
so what we do is with meditation is have them go back and see that. And then too, what you find out is over the years, they have made it much more scary than it actually was when it happened. Not to say that there's some childhood traumas, that stuff, but
Right.
you keep living it. And the problem is the subconscious mind doesn't know a difference of whenever you're remembering it, if it's actually happening again or actually, or it's not. It thinks that it's actually happened, but doesn't know the difference. So you have to go back and see that, recognize it, and understand, okay, it's there. I can't change it, but what I can do is change how I react and how it drives me going forward.
Yeah.
How to replace that or put something alongside it so there's a companion that is brighter and bigger than that thing that is holding me back from those years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the exercise I try to take people through.
Yeah. I do something similar actually for actors, right? Because, well, I have two programs. One is Get Better Roles. That's for trained actors who've been working professionally for at least a couple of years, but they're still not where they want to be. And one of the reasons they're still not where they want to be is because they have been letting their limiting beliefs stand in front of them. And so you must first recognize them, right? And one of the things, and honestly, I think this would work beyond just for actors, because it applies to human beings and their limiting beliefs, is to write the story of your relationship to whatever that thing is. So in your case, if you're coaching people on food, like, write the story of your relationship to food, both good and bad. Your memories around that, what happened. And then for me, I mean, this is a very actory thing to do, but it's very powerful, not just to write that story, but to tell it.
Yeah.
Because then you all of a sudden, there's something about saying these things, especially in front of a couple other people, that it becomes much more visceral.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so it's and I'm sorry. So what that makes me think of it, and so it's kind of going back to what I was just kind of speaking of, is you tell the story and then you reframe it or put something alongside of it, because this is to your point. When you speak it from your mouth, you hear it with your ears and you believe it in your heart. If you're just saying it in your head, you're not actually.
Well, I'm not even that far with the story at that point. I just want them to begin to, because a lot of times they're not even aware.
Right.
Oh, when this happened, that happened, right?
Yeah,
Then I felt
once they
right?
actually do, once they actually write that story out, then they rewrite a different light beside it and do the same process. And so it helps heal that initial thing that they're unwrapping, or the story that they've been telling themselves or actually happened before, right? So because you're doing the same thing, you're making it a visceral type feeling in your body, right? So,
well, the point of it is to discover the limiting beliefs.
yes, yeah,
and but that's a whole nother. That's like the second step. But yes, definitely,
absolutely. So you were talking about the Get Better Roles. You have another passion project to pro. Talk about that. Talk about that.
Yeah. So So maybe I'll just quickly finish my journey of like doing workshops, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So
Love
so
this.
I relaunched my career, and then within a few years, I became a life and career coach to get over my own limiting belief, and
Mhm.
then that made me realize, okay, I can adopt somebody else's strategies and frameworks. What else don't I know? And it turned out I was like, well, what I think I'm not getting here is understanding the business of being an actor.
Mhm.
I understand how to act, but I don't understand the business of being an
Mhm.
actor. And that's when I realized I needed to learn about being in business for myself. What am I selling? How am I packaging this?
Mhm.
How, who's my audience? Blah, blah, blah. All of the things that apply
Yeah.
to this mug, just like they apply to me.
Mhm.
And that's when I really started coaching with all these different coaches, business coaches, and some of the top, names, Sonny Leonard Uzzi, James Wedmore, Amy Porterfield, right? Like big names.
Yeah.
Also coaches for branding and for marketing, for networking, all of that. And I realized that there was a branding problem with me.
Mm.
So I was coming,
How did that feel
we,
when you realized that? What did that feel like?
well, the problem is the solution,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So part of it was just like, now I get it.
Mm.
They're not understanding what I can bring to the table.
Mhm.
So it was kind of a relief, to be honest. I
Mm.
just need to show them because I was getting typecast. I was getting typecast, right? And I don't know if this is coming as a video or a audio for
It'll
you.
be both video and
Oh,
audio. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So I have sharp features. I've got dark hair. I've got light eyes, right? And so and I'm a strong woman.
Yeah.
So I was always getting these like really icy, calculating, cold, lean back power bitches.
Yeah. Fatal
And
attraction type roles, is this what we're talking about?
that
Just
would have been more fun, to be honest, because at least she had, a little bit
right,
more three dimensionality to her.
right.
No, they were more like fairly flat,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Like come in and play the villain that
mm.
but not like a villain like in a Marvel film or something that has a history and a three dimensions and you see their other side, but
So what role would you have, like, any current movie, show, whatever that people would know, would you have liked to take on?
ooh, I love Alex Levy in the morning show.
Mm, man, that's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
And I loved Connie Britton in White Lotus.
Mm,
And what else? Gillian Anderson in Sex Education.
mm.
And that's totally me overstepping my boundaries as a mother. And oh God, what else? Um, oh man, those are the ones that are coming to mind right off the bat. So I love dramedy. I loved a little bit of that heightened reality,
Mhm.
and so also because I've got um, a strong face, so I
Yeah,
get more drama
yeah, yeah.
as opposed to comedy, and I love comedy.
Mhm.
So I realized that there was an issue with my branding. They were seeing superficially what I was presenting, but they were think of it this way. They were seeing the icing on the cake, but they weren't seeing the layers.
Mm, mhm.
And I decided it was my job to show them what's inside the cake. And I did that. And I was like, I'm can be very warm. I can be very playful. I can, and all of these other aspects to who I am.
Mhm.
And that's when I got cast in the Hallmark Christmas movie, A Heidelberg Holiday. And so I was like, okay, maybe a little bit too far in the sweet side. Time to pull back just a little bit.
Got what you asked for, right?
Right. But it's a journey and we are always evolving and developing. And I have a brand statement for myself as an actor. So I play high status, morally ambiguous women with a fierce heart.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And when you see me, you get it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
perfectly summed. Yeah, it's very good. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I did. And I once I changed my branding, I started to get much better auditions, much bigger auditions, get better roles. And then people started coming to me. Well, first of all, we actors always are, you always call up other actors to help you audition because you need someone who can act
Yeah.
to read against you. So people started seeing I was getting there. Oh, how'd you get this? Right? Tell me about that. Who's casting this? Right. And so then I was started coaching one-on-one. And then that very quickly led to Get Better Roles, my signature group coaching program. And that was kind of that. And then I was still, whenever I would need a cash infusion, I would put on a workshop. So if I wanted to finance a short film, filmmaking is expensive, or
Yes.
if I wanted to have some extra money to go on vacation or wherever it was, I would put on a few workshops and get that extra money. So my intention originally had been to get training, now became income.
Mhm.
And then most recently, I've been using these, I'd say the past 3-4 years, using these workshops as a way to network with people who I want to work with.
Yes.
Because I'm literally offering them something of value. I will pay you.
Mhm.
And then it gives me the opportunity to have a conversation with them and for them to get to know me.
Mhm.
And as an actor, that's a very valuable thing, right?
Mhm.
Because we are all about authenticity these days, on screen as well as off screen.
Mhm.
And so and from that, I've gotten direct requests and auditions, and that's been excellent for me.
Who would you like to work alongside? Who would be a dream?
Mm. Oh my gosh. Oh God, what is her name? I can see her that she was in The Landscaper. She was in The Favorite. Olivia Colman.
Mm. Mm.
She's amazing. She's so good. And I mean, there's so many good actors, to be
Mhm.
honest. Rosamund Pike, she's amazing. I mean, it's probably easier just these days to say who I wouldn't want to, although even that. Let's walk that back. I have no idea. I like
Oh,
everybody.
I told you I
Yeah.
would not
Yeah.
Mario poke at you.
Yeah.
Although you say like I want to know, but I wouldn't do this on this recording.
Mhm.
When this recording's over, maybe we can talk.
Right, right, right. So the interesting thing was over the years, I'm 58, so have a lot of girlfriends who are my age, even
Yeah.
older, and also a lot of friends who are younger and through acting. But there are so many people who are dissatisfied with their lives.
Mhm.
And the solution, the problem is the solution
Yeah. Yeah.
again,
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Back.
right? It always comes back to that. So for instance, no matter what your passion is, as long as it doesn't require a higher degree, you can find a way to create events around that and make it a much more meaningful, sustainable part of your life that's
Absolutely.
producing income.
So that this brings up a really good segue to kind of, or not a segue, but a point. So I started. You and I talked about this in the discovery call. Had this media company for about 2 decades, podcasting for about 10 years. Started out podcasting that led to other creators coming to me. Can you help me launch a podcast? To radio stations say, hey, can you create content for us? Sure, it's the same thing. Then to I had an idea for a TV show. It was like I don't know anything about TV production, but if I get in front of the right people, I will sell it. And so much so we have a TV on Fox, show on Fox right now. We're working on 2 more. So that's that thing. It's like I didn't need a higher education to do that. I just had a strong will and desire. I knew that what I had was hot and would be great. And then if I could get in front of you and pitch it to you, you'll buy it. And it was the very last place that I contacted a program director that I contacted, said, I'll take a meeting with you. I've got time. It's like, and I told the person that I pinned as the host, I said, we get in front of them, so they will buy it. He's taking this meeting. He will buy it because he's going to see how passionate we are. And we sat down and he goes, "Ah, so you have a media company?" He said, "Yeah, but I want to be very clear here is I don't know anything about TV production. I know that I need to record some pilot shows and things like that. You tell me what you need. I've recorded 3 pilot shows. What do you need?" And so he like gave me free education right there that day. So
Amazing.
for
Yeah.
and so that's to your point is I had no formal training in that, no education in that at all.
Well, I mean, the whole point is I went and got the training I needed,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And this is something anybody can do. So whether your passion is foraging for edible fauna on your hikes or survivalism out in the wilderness or meditation or yoga or singing or writing, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm,
There are ways to create events now, whether they're in person or online or retreats. That's all part of the process. But Passion Project to Pro, literally, we start with an ideation. What's your burning curiosity? What's your burning passion? Because I truly believe that you have been given that. And again, that is the key to your purpose. And so when you stop letting fear block you and you lean into that and see where it can go. And so the very first workshop is just figuring out what it is and what makes the most sense. Is that going to be online? Is it going to be in person? Whatever it is, right?
mhm,
Is that a supper club? Is that a 5 in the morning hike while you talk about business? What is that? What is your aim? And how can you make that something that's truly you,
mhm, mhm,
right? So, and then it's an 8-week course over 9 weeks. The 7th week, I take them through everything from where to find the experts, the coaches, whatever they happen to need, where to find those people, where to find the other participants, how to price it, where to find the venues, all of that kind of stuff, the
I
logistics.
had no idea this what this was. That's remarkable. That is
And then the 7th week, they launch it. Like
yeah.
it's like preparing, like, here's your checklist. Now you're going to go off in these next 2 weeks. Everybody's going to launch their event.
Mhm,
And then we come back on week 8 and we debrief. What went well? What would you do differently?
mhm.
When's your next event?
Oh, that is
So,
so great. I got chills listening to this. This is so good because
thank
it's
you.
like, I mean, I think about what I've envisioned is that room, whether it's virtual or not, like the room of all these different creatives coming together. Like how much energy is in that space. And it's, I
Yes.
mean, my
And
God.
they are going to be sparking
Oh
each
my God.
other.
Yeah.
They're going to be getting inspiration from each
Yes.
other. Like it's like, oh, I could do that, or oh, somebody will think really outside the box, and then that'll inspire other people to think outside the box. And I'm so excited about it because it truly is a way to make people to help people who think it's too late for them, and
Mhm,
it's a soft landing, right?
mhm,
It's not like, as I said, I've coached with all these big coaches. And what I see again and again in their communities is about once a week, somebody will post something like, "Hey guys, I'm really dealing with imposter syndrome. Anybody else?"
mhm,
And then you see like 97 comments. "Oh God, me too, me too, me too, me too, me too." And the problem is in a sense, they've been given sort of a false promise that
mhm,
you only need to stay 2 steps ahead
mhm.
of whoever it is you're teaching. But staying just 2 steps ahead of someone, you're always looking over your shoulder,
Right. Yeah.
right? And it doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence in where you are and what you can give. So this is a way to build build that knowledge, build the community. You
Mhm,
are going to be becoming a person of authority, trust me. I
mhm,
mean, and you may have to fight also not to be in the beginning. And then when you're ready, you will know.
mhm,
People will start to say to you, how about you teach a workshop?
mhm.
How about you tell us
And then the
this?
type of questions you get and I think kind of circling back to this a little bit too, another thing that I don't want people to lose is the fact that you don't have to have everybody in whatever that thing you're going. There's enough other people out in the world that are seeking what you. I, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot
It
because
does
you've done so
not.
many workshops, right? Yeah, like
Exactly, Scott. I made this work with literally a handful of other actors.
mhm,
And that's all you really need is
yeah,
a handful of other people. Now, depending on what you want, what your objective is, right? So that's the interesting thing is you can use it for different things. As I've understood it more and more and done it more and more, that's what I've realized for myself is it can be a networking tool. So
absolutely.
if right, depending, and it really just depends on what the person is into,
Mhm,
like what makes the most sense and how and what their goals are, right? If they're just trying to build the community, well, then maybe X, Y, and Z is their best method. But that's the whole point is having someone who's been there, done that, kind of walk you through it and give you all the templates, all the spreadsheets, all the stuff that otherwise you'd be having to do yourself, the email templates, how to reach out to people, telling people how to find people, all that kind of stuff, right?
well,
That
it's
it
just like with more times than not, it just people want accountability. That's really what they come to you for,
also
yeah,
exactly.
accountability, yeah.
So, I mean, and honestly, I give away a free workbook, at actboldtraining.com/small p2
Mhm.
for P squared passion project to pro.
Passion Pro okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, P squared. Um, is you can download a free workbook and that will definitely get you started. If you're like, yeah, maybe I'd like to see what I can do on my own, then download the workbook and see what you can do on your own
Mm.
because it
Can
will
you
definitely
share
get everyone started.
That's great, and we'll make sure I'll link that into the show notes as well. Can you share a story of someone that's gone through, this and maybe
No, because I'm launching it next year.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yes, yes, I'm launching it in March. So
Oh,
I've had Get Better Roles for about 2 years now as
yeah,
a program. I was a one-on-one coach before that,
yeah,
but Get Better Role I can tell you lots of stories about actors, but
yeah.
that's not I mean, not
Yeah, no, I think
really.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. So, yeah, let's use that then. Get better roles. Give an example of somebody that has gone through that you've helped kind of take that leap of faith, and they've
Yeah.
experienced
Well,
trans-
one of my clients, Heike, she was a theater actor and director for over 20 years.
Mm,
And she had been trying to transition into film and television for the past 3 years. And over the 3-year period, she had only ever been cast as a co-star. Those are those tiny little roles
mhm,
in a couple of series, which is obviously not sustainable.
mhm,
And her branding was way off.
mhm,
And she hadn't even finished the program, but she got through the branding part of it. And I always encourage my clients, hey, send your stuff out because that's all feedback,
mhm.
right? You don't have to wait until it's perfect. Just start messy, send your
You'll never
stuff
do
out.
it if you wait till it's perfect.
Right. Just get it out there. Yeah. And within 3 weeks of finishing her branding and polishing up her materials, she got cast in 3 separate shows, 2 co-stars and a guest star, which is the main person of that episode. So that just goes to show you that when the branding is, what I always say is confused minds don't cast, right?
Mhm.
They move on. So I was coaching a young actress. I always say actor, but I mean, she
Yeah,
was
right.
female, right? And she had submitted her headshots to me. She had 10 different, really different headshots under the mistaken belief that more is better.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing though, we all have a vibe, right? We all have what I call your energetic signature.
Mhm.
And that is our natural thing. That is our natural, what we naturally give off. So her pictures, just as an example, she had the quirky best friend who leads with her heart, because that's what quirky best friends do. She had the brainiac nerdy girl who leads with her head, because that's what brainiac nerdy girls do. She had the seductress who leads with her body, because that's what seductresses do,
Mhm.
right? And we all have these and there's no cut and dry thing, but we all naturally lead more with one thing than with the other. And so the question was, she had been called in for the sexy girl, and she's actually more of the brainy girl. So when she walked in, they were like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
right, yeah," which is not. But had they been looking for a brainy girl, she would have been perfect.
Mhm.
And she is beautiful. And this is nothing about how she looks. It's just what you lead with. It's the vibe.
You got to lean into that, right?
Yeah, you have to lean into that. As soon as you try to be everything to everyone, you become nothing to no one. And casting directors are no different. What I always say to my actors is don't catfish the casting directors.
Mhm.
Lead with who you are,
Mhm.
because it may not be right for what they're casting right now, but at least they're going to understand how to cast you later when the right role does come along.
Mhm. Well, and it makes me, this is God, it's a terrible analogy, but I'll use it because this is what popped in my head. But you talked about confused minds don't cast. I always say coaching people through sales trainings and things like that. Confused minds don't buy. Like you're just like all over the place. Like you got to be
Well,
very.
it's buy, right? Sure. That's what a
That's
casting director is doing, because it goes back to you are the product,
Yeah, exactly. And so
right?
that made me think about when you're talking about those all those different headshots. There's psychology behind this, like um,
Let me
uh,
cover all my bases,
yeah, right. Well, and then
right?
there's
Yeah.
psychology too, like the snack makers. For example, like the big brands when they put up a snack machine, they have limited selections because they know if they give you too many, you just walk away. You don't just like it's too much. I
Yeah,
can
it's overwhelming. It's like
this
when you
week.
go to
Yeah,
some Chinese restaurants, they'll have like 1,000 different things, right?
yes. I'll
And
just stick to one time. That's all I know.
yeah, if they had just had 10 in there, I would have been good to go, but it's like
Absolutely.
1,000, and of course, I'm one of those people like, "Oh my god, everything sounds great. I wanna try out all," right?
Well, it's like the
So,
Cheesecake Factory. They hand you a menu that's
a book,
virtually the size of War and
right.
Peace. You're like, "What
Yeah,
is this? Can we
right.
eliminate some of this?" It's
Yeah,
just too much. So, what do you
yeah.
think the biggest misconception is for people about pursuing passions later in life? What have you found?
Well, I think the truth is that most people think it's too late.
Mhm.
They feel like, and here's the thing, what I think that they're often doing is, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? They're allowing other people's fear
Mhm.
dictate what they are able to do.
Mhm.
Because our limbic brain, you were mentioning this earlier, that lizard brain, right, likes to stay in its comfort zone.
Mhm.
And it likes to keep you in your comfort zone because that's where it's safe.
Mhm.
But your big dreams, nobody's big dreams, are inside that little comfort zone.
Mhm.
So you have got to start taking the steps, and they don't have to be big steps. They can just be little steps, consistency, right?
Mhm.
Like you said earlier as well, consistency. Take little steps every day, because each step you take is expanding your comfort zone by that much.
And
And we go back to the flywheel, right?
Mhm.
Which is, it's creating the intention, which creates the action, which creates the confidence, which
Mhm.
creates the new belief, which
Yeah,
creates the results.
absolutely. And I think about people's habits. Their habits are dictated by their habitat directly, and the biggest thing that impacts their habitat are the people they allow in their lives.
Yeah.
So you have those people always kind of pulling you down, and um, your self doubt and your self whatever that you have a lot of times is being projected from somebody else, and you've accepted that. Why would you accept that label? And think about if you have a child and you heard they came home and told you a story about somebody, you'd be like, you'd give them all the tools they can to mentally work through that. Then why do you allow that stuff to happen to yourself? You know,
Yeah.
and then you also, with that too, you can't beat yourself up. You got to allow yourself grace, because as humans, we give grace away so freely, like it's no big deal, but we sure don't give it to
Give it
ourselves.
to ourselves.
We just
Oh
don't.
man, I am always saying this. As an actor, we play like, as a human being, I can say this, but not as a human being, we play the most despicable character sometimes, right? You can play a murdering pedophile, but you have got to find the humanity in that person,
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just playing a caricature.
Mhm. Mm.
And we sometimes don't give ourselves the grace that we would give that character
Mhm.
to find the humanity, to find the little child within, to find the human being, right? The person who just wants what we all want, which is love, acceptance, make our parents proud, right? We all want these things. This is universal. We want to feel part of something. We want to feel like our life has meaning.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm so passionate about saying that your curiosity, your passion, it is your duty to explore that, because you've been given that passion, that curiosity for a reason. And it will lead you to your purpose. It may be something else entirely, but you will never know until you begin to explore it.
Mhm. Mm. It's beautifully said. It's so accurate. It's so well said. It's so accurate. I love that. So this going back at thinking about the community that you've, you know, been a part of and kind of your journey of reinvention. Um, are you did you find connections outside of the acting kind of community to back home through all of this? You know, because you've been, I guess, there for 30 years, and um, your journey to, you know, part of why you moved over there and all that kind of stuff. What kind of things are you doing to, um, or did you lean into some connections back home? You know, when you transferred?
Well, I mean, I haven't gone a long time, but I'm still, honestly, I'm still, I've got a Zoom date with my high school, one
I
of my
love
best friends in high school. Yeah. So I don't have, I'm not in, I mean, my son lives in LA. I
that.
have two sisters. So one is in Wyoming and one is in New York.
Mm,
I'm have my mom. I have my stepsisters. Um, you do lose touch with people. I
mm,
have to be honest about that. Like
mm,
there are people who were really near and dear to my heart, but just the miles and the separation and life, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it's been forever, and
mm,
you know. So, but I also still very much have a connection to, I am American,
mm,
right? And I still work in America as an actor. I we built Act Bold, my company, as an LLC in America, and it's still very much a part of my life. And I may or may not someday move back. It just depends on a lot. But I mean, life is good here. I love Germany at this point, and I'm very close to beautiful places to go for a visit and all of that. So the connection, look, as cliched as it is, home is where the heart is.
yeah.
And so my heart is split between LA and Munich
Yeah.
because my son is in LA and my sisters are around, but your child is your child.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, when my son first moved to LA, I was looking for houses.
Mm.
I was like, you don't think that I'm going to stay here while he lives there?
Right.
No, that's
Yeah.
not going to work.
Yeah.
And now he's thinking about coming home. So I'm like, whew, okay. Those housing prices in LA are pretty high.
No joke.
So yeah, yeah,
No joke. So you've, you know, lived in a lot of European cities, correct? And so what those experiences, how has it shaped your perspective and influenced your work?
yeah. Well, honestly, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. We have superficial differences as human beings on this earth,
Hmm.
but that's it, really.
Hmm.
There's an exercise that will come up once in a while during an acting workshop where you just sit across from someone and you look into their eyes and you just look at them and
Hmm.
they look at you. And something happens at about minute 90 seconds, right? A minute and 90 seconds, somewhere in there, where it stops feeling stupid and awkward, and you just are looking, and all of a sudden you see, okay, you see that person's soul.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it always, I mean, it makes me kind of tear up thinking about it even. It always makes me very emotional. And I can't tell you how often I've done that, sitting across from someone who maybe I didn't like so much, or maybe I didn't find attractive,
Mm.
just on a physical level. And when you've seen their soul,
It's different. Changes.
yeah.
It changes. Something I didn't share with you. I went through an acting class years ago. It was
Oh, wow.
I can't remember the guy's name. I've done some small things. I was on an episode of Baywatch Hawaii. I know that's Jared's cringy, but anyway, but but I was in an acting class, and it was a guy. He was a past soap star. He was well known. I cannot remember his name right now to save my life. But that was one of the things that he did in the workshop. Like
Yeah.
day
It's
one.
a typical actor's
And
exercise.
and I
Yeah.
would say it was very uncomfortable
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
first. Like you said, it's like you're kind of moving around. You're like, this just doesn't feel right. But then there's that time for me, it felt like it was longer. It probably was only like 30 seconds, but it felt like 5 days. And but then you then you settle in,
Yeah.
like, you just start seeing, like, I'm not getting, weird, but there's like this, you see this energy about them. There's this energetic, I mean, because
There's a connection.
there's a connection that happens, and
Yeah.
there's a subconscious conversation that takes place that you might
Yeah.
not be able to interpret, but something's going on. And it is, you do actually get connected to their soul. And it's
Yeah.
so powerful. And I told him, I said, man, that was the most uncomfortable, but most beautiful and comfortable thing that I've ever done. It hit
Yeah.
the whole from one end to the extreme. So when you started saying that, I was like, oh my God, I remember that exercise. This must be something very common.
It is super common. It is. It's really, really common. And because to really act well, you need to be connected. You need to, so that you are, because acting isn't about the first impulse, it's
Mm,
about the reaction impulse.
mhm. So how do
You,
you connect? Like I could see that being very beneficial in many things, but let's say that I was cast to play the story of Brad Pitt, because everybody says I look like, I'm just kidding, but if I were cast to play his life, and I didn't have access to him, and I could see that being beneficial to sit and have that. How do you channel, whether it's a fictional character or actually somebody, because if it's an actual real person, you could do research on them, but a fictional character, like how do you use that same type of exercise to breathe
you
life?
don't.
Like, how do you do that?
You will, well, first you have to do the work around creating that character.
Mhm.
And in the olden days, right, that used to be like writing a backstory. Um, there's an understanding of psychology, right? Understanding of archetypes, understanding where that person fits into the story, what their role in the story is. Some people are just there to influence somebody else, right?
Mhm.
So there are a lot of things that go into it. Honestly, these days you can plug a lot of this stuff into
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
I was about to say, do you use ChatGPT to figure
Oh,
some of this?
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can plug it into ChatGPT and like upload your script
Mhm.
and say, give me a psychological breakdown of
It's
this person.
remarkable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's remarkable. So, but then, like, I'm curious though too. Like before that, like if you didn't, you know, say you weren't feeling particularly creative, with writing a backstory or getting a backstory, did you like read the script to kind of get an understanding of that character and say, is there somebody in society now or past that I could research on that's similar to this to draw inspiration from?
We're always drawing inspiration,
Mhm.
right? When I was like a young acting student, I used to carry around this notebook with me, very studious, right? And like I'd be sitting on the bus, and right now this guy popped into my head. He was a chain smoker, and maybe it wasn't the bus, maybe it was a bus stop. But I remember he would like, as soon as he finished one cigarette, he was lighting the other one.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
there were these like mannerisms, right? That were, or people will, like my mom will do this, yeah. right? And it's something very specific to her. So
Mhm.
sometimes you'll be like, ooh, that would be good for this
Oh, yes.
person, right?
So you're doing that
So
for uh, it's character observation, but potentially for future development. Is that what that notebook was for? That is so
yeah,
cool. I love
yeah.
that so
Yeah.
much.
And especially I also write. So
Yeah.
sometimes I would like sometimes like a character would just be born out of
Mhm,
a mannerism.
mhm.
And I can tell you also, like,
That
I
is
remember I was
interesting.
working with this other amazing coach, and I was playing this super conservative woman,
Mhm.
which I'm not, but that's what I was playing,
Yeah.
just in case you didn't get that. And so, I was having problems finding her, and my acting coach, I had a purse on my lap,
Mhm,
and he put my purse upright on my lap, and I held it like
mhm,
like
mhm.
this. And all of a sudden, it
Wow.
was like, yeah.
Isn't that
And
amazing how an object like something like that could totally shift? Like,
yeah.
so interesting.
And that is a fascinating thing about acting, right? Sometimes it's you're finding it from the inside out, and sometimes you're finding it from the outside in.
And what amazing observation of that director to realize that I make this small change, I know it's going to like, that's
So good.
amazing.
Yeah. 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 So good.
Those subtle things, man, that we don't
And
know.
sometimes exactly. And so you also this is also the problem with us human beings, right? Why we often don't see the problem or the solution, I should say, is because we're just too close.
Blind, obvious observations is what they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Wow. That's very interesting. So, the your character observation book, that's we all as humans, we like to people watch. You actually utilize that as a workshop, like you were at workshop every day with your notebook. Um,
Yeah.
it, can you think of one particular? I mean, it's a lot. I know you had a lot of journaling in that time that you actually utilized somebody that it was so strong of a character that you saw out in the world that you actually used that in a role. Or did you just use pieces of all of this that you
Well,
observed?
it really depends, right? So I've definitely used mannerisms from people.
Mhm,
Um, Yeah, interestingly, mother figures very much. They're coming to my mind. So my mother-in-law, my mother, my stepmother. So they have definitely been incorporated into characters that I've done, aspects of them, both positive and negative.
mhm.
Um, but I mean, that notebook is, as I said, I'm 58.
Yeah,
Notebook is old,
yeah,
Scott.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, but I've also like sometimes it'll lead also to like a story,
Mhm.
right?
So
To
you might not use it directly, it could be an indirect inspiration to something else.
right, which becomes something
In a
to a
sense,
character,
yeah.
right? But so like
Interesting.
there's yeah,
Yeah.
there's one. I don't know if I should say this, but I'll just
Eh,
say it anyway. So my mom told me once and my mother loves jewelry. She
mm,
loves sort of those superficial
yeah.
things, right? And she told me that whenever she feels really bad, she will go get her floor length mink coat,
Mm,
put on all of her jewelry, and lay down in her sleigh bed from the
mm,
18th century. And she just covers herself in all of these symbols of something,
mm,
right? What
mm,
are they? Are they symbols of success? Are they symbols of being loved? Are they symbols of worth?
mm.
And these are the questions that you have to ask as an actor, right? And it's a great image. I mean, it's like, oh my God, mom, that's so cinematic,
It very is. I mean, that's I see this.
Yeah,
She's on this big bed, and the camera is above her, and it's panning out very slowly.
totally. I mean, you can just
You
totally
can see
see
it.
somebody
Yes,
doing that, right? And just what it says about them,
yeah.
right? And just like that's what's so great about film. It's like, you
You
know,
gotta
within
use that in something that you do.
totally,
You have to
totally.
use that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, "Oh, no,
My
I
mom
remember, I know where that came from." I see
yeah,
it.
exactly,
It's so
exactly.
good. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So, are there any particular mentors that really along the way played a significant role in your journey?
Yeah, lots. I mean, some I've known, some I've read their books, some
Mhm.
I've taken their courses. Um, I my
Who stands out
stepmother.
the mo I was gonna say, who stands out the most to you in all that?
Okay, I really hope my mom doesn't hear this one. My stepmom is really a mentor to me, or was. She died. She was 99 and a half. But she was really a mentor to me. And it was interesting because I could not stand her for the first 25 years of their
Oh,
marriage. Could not
really?
stand her.
What
And then
changed? Like, what was it?
well, yeah.
Was it an appreciation? What was it?
I was visiting my dad. I had had abdominal surgery. She was at this point, she's probably in her 80s. She's a little old, but was always strong and spry and
Yeah.
completely there and all that. And always looked great. She was very vain. That's something that, but and so and we had gone to Joanne. She also was really artistic. So we had gone to Joanne Fabrics or something to like do a project we were gonna do. And she refused to let me carry the packages.
Hmm.
And there was just something about that. It kind of makes me emotional. I could see her for the first time with fresh eyes, adult eyes,
Mm,
you know?
mm.
And I think part of the problem was my dad is also no longer here, so I can say this, but my dad really wanted her to be our mom so much that he would say, this is your mother, blah blah blah. I said, no, she's not. There's my mother. And so I always felt like by liking her, being nice to her, whatever it was, I was betraying my mom as a
Mm,
little kid, you know. And
mm.
at this point, I'm now in my 30s when this happens, and I'm an adult. I have a child of my own. And I don't know, it just switched, and I could see her for all of her good qualities. And then we became very close, actually, and we did have so much in common. So she was an interior designer. I was super into interior design for a while. She was really artistic. She likes to paint, and
That
she
so tracks with acting, right? It's the same
yeah,
creative kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so my mother is also very creative, but in a different way.
Mhm.
But before I was always looking for the differences, and all of a sudden I could see the similarities.
Mm,
And my dad always used to say, "You two are so much alike," and I would get insulted. I was like,
mm,
"Don't say that, how dare you?"
mhm,
but then, yeah, then it switched, and she was really an amazing woman. She was fully there up till the minute she laid down and took a nap and never woke up again.
That is amazing. Like, you
Yeah,
just never know what's gonna be that thing that changes the course of anything that you're doing, but particularly people that are in your life. And
yeah,
you said you started seeing her good qualities, and I think many times the first thing we think about somebody that we're maybe not fond of, we think about the bad. And you know what? If you're going to give them credit for all the bad and wrong, you also got to give them credit for all the good. And it was that moment. It's funny. It's not even a significant thing that you shared that switched it, but you saw her as a human. You saw her as this just different thing. You're like, it's amazing, you know?
it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with confirmation bias,
Mm,
right? So
mhm,
whenever she would do something before, I was like, "Ah, look at her. She's so selfish. She's so egotistical. She's so, all these things, right?"
mhm.
And sure, she is still a human being with flaws, or she was. But all of a sudden I could also see the good things. Yeah.
Mm, that's beautiful. So,
Yeah.
what it's going to be tough, I know, but what do you think? What's the most valuable lesson you learned from her?
Mm. Ooh,
Mhm.
yeah. She was amazingly patient with my sisters and I, with my sister and I, because my dad only had the two and my mom had kids with other people. And that kindness was beautiful. And she used to say, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And I think honestly, it goes to that, you know. And also like I think she always looked for the child, you know, even in the adult, like where's the she never said this, so maybe I'm assuming something, but she was amazingly patient even when people were not kind to her.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful quality. When you were telling me about her, I thought you were going to say consistency, but
Mm,
patience completely tracks based on
yeah.
what you're saying. That
Yeah.
was so well said. Mm. And like if you and you had you not experienced that moment where it shifted, you may have missed out on that gift because
Yeah.
you know,
It could be.
yeah.
Usually because you made it specific to her, I had to really think
Mm.
what was the gift she gave me? She gave me many gifts, but you know, what was the main takeaway? Because normally when people ask me this, I refer back to my grandma, who was also an amazing woman. Um, but she taught me that if you want someone to do something differently, it has to begin with you.
Mhm.
So if you want a different reaction, you want a different result, you got to do something different to
Mhm.
get that.
Mhm.
You can't, you know, keep doing the same thing with the same person and expect that you're going to get a different result, right?
Mhm. Who needs Dr.
Um,
Phil when we've got these old sages, sharing these great life lessons? It's like
yeah,
best advice I ever hear is like when my grandmother was alive. It's that old school, just the thought. It was just different the way they thought about things, and those are the things I carry with me. A lot of those conversations in my teens and early 20s and stuff. My conversation with because I was my grandmother's only grandson, so we had a lot
uh,
together.
yeah,
We were a lot alike. We butted heads a lot because we're both Aquarians, and we just whatever, and both stubborn at times, but man, just mad respect for each other, and just some of those lessons that she laid out. Then you resist them at the times, like, whatever. I find myself repeating them and passing them along now because things change when you change lenses and things that you see the world through, as you evolve
yeah,
through things. Wow.
yeah.
So what are you most excited about working on right now? And kind of what do you see for your future?
So, still working on my acting career.
Yeah.
And in February, I'm going to the London Actors Pro Expo, which is like the biggest convention for actors. I'm going there as a sponsor with my company Act
Huh?
Bold. And in March, I'm launching Passion Project to Pro.
Mhm.
And I am honestly, I love actors. I will always love actors and I will always want to work with them. But it's very niche.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited to work with people from all different walks of life and all different interests and to help them bridge their passion into their profession,
Mhm.
into making it, you know, a meaningful, impactful, sustainable part of their life in a way that is not painful.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Because so many times people think, oh, well, you know, if I do this side hustle, whatever, then how is that going to fit into my 9 to 5?
Mhm.
But the beauty is with this sort of a thing, you make it fit. You do it whether you can do it once a month, once every 2 months, once a week. That's up to you because it's your thing, right?
And I
And
think,
so
and like, think about that too. Like when something's important enough to us, we make the time. Like if it's
yes,
truly that important, right?
yeah, it's everything is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another thing, but I always begin, with new actors, actors who are coming into my program. Radical accountability, radical honesty,
Mm-hmm.
because you have got to acknowledge where you are if you want to get somewhere else. You got to know where you're starting from in
Mm-hmm.
order to chart the course.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And time's going to pass anyway, so you might as well be chasing and doing something that you're passionate about. And we wake up every single day with two things: a chance and a choice. What
Oh, I
choices?
love that.
What
Yeah.
choices are you going to make with the chance that you got today? And that's the
Mm.
thing, man. That's the thing. So we're at the point of rapid fire questions. Okay.
Okay.
Put
Yeah.
in. You ready
Yeah.
for this?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. And first thing that comes to your mind. So don't think too long about it. Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
My dog cuddling.
What's one piece of advice you'd give your 20-year-old self?
Don't let fear get in your way.
Mm,
Just do it.
mm. Books or
Yeah.
movies?
Movies.
I knew you'd say that. Early bird or night owl?
Ooh, I'm somewhere in between, to be
Ah,
honest. Yeah.
do tell. What? Like? What? Why?
Well, like my perfect going to bed is around midnight, and my perfect getting up is around 8.
Mm,
So it's not really one or
gotcha.
the other.
It's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Just like you showed up. You're your own thing.
I
If
am.
you are,
Yeah. Yeah.
uniquely you. If you could master any skill instantly, what would it be?
The art of being irresistible.
I've not heard that before. That's good. One word to describe reinvention.
One word. Oh man. Okay. One word to describe reinvention. Bold.
That's good. You had to be bold, right?
Yeah.
What's a place you still want to visit?
Japan. I've been there, but I haven't been there in like 35 years, and I was there really briefly. I really am into going to Japan.
Mm. My son
Yeah.
wants to go there. He is thinking of doing a foreign exchange type thing or study abroad thing
Yeah.
there. So anyway, who inspires you the most right now?
Who inspires me the most right now? This is going to sound strange, but the person who popped into my head is my VA, Michelle.
Ah,
She is this 23-year-old kid in the Philippines. She's amazing. She's so part of the team. And she's so like always thinking of ways to do things better. And she gave me a presentation yesterday. She's like, Anne, can I show you this? And she had a whole presentation planned out for how we could, increase views and interacting with people and stuff. I love that kind of a mind.
mhm.
You know,
I have found when I've done some VA stuff with people from the Philippines, and they're so kind and generous. Um,
she's such a great kid.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, if she were younger, I'd adopt her. She was, but seriously, I mean, I totally have already, I tell her pretty much every day, I'm so glad we found you. And,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful and all that.
It wasn't by
Um,
chance. It wasn't by chance. It wasn't by chance. The
yeah.
universe designed you the way you're supposed to. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, this is the one where I say, yeah, if you want a different result, you got to do something different.
Mhm, mhm.
This was from my grandma. Yeah.
Define success in one sentence.
Well, success is a moving carrot.
Mhm. It's so true.
Yeah.
So accurate. My gosh. And so you survived the rapid fire segment. You feel good. You can relax now and breathe. And
I'm good. Yeah.
yeah, it's so difficult, right, Scott? Thanks for the tough, hard hitting questions there. So tell me how people can find and connect with you. This is where you leave your, the stuff you're working on again, your links and all that kind of stuff. And again, all this stuff will be in the show notes, things you're kind of working on that you want people to know about.
Yeah.
Sheldon.
Yeah. So if you are an actor or you have put this to the side and this was something that you have got some training in and you want to make it happen, then definitely Get Better Roles is a great start. You can find me at actboldtraining.com. You can also find me at Linktree, act_bold. That's probably the easiest one because it has all the links.
Mm,
Um, if you are someone who's got a passion or curiosity about something and you would like to have more impact and more meaning in your life, then Passion Project to Pro is a great start for that. And I always respond to people in my DMs. That's me. It's not Michelle. And yeah, just reach out. I'm super easy to find. Anne
yeah.
Alexander Cedar, Sieder.
And you're super responsive because and all the time that when we first started connecting, it's just been amazing to. So she's what she's saying is actually true. I've experienced it because we booked this a while back. So this is very true. And you
Mm.
also, I need to give her a shout out here on the show too. Is I had to change our recording date kind of last minute, and I know you're busy, so that was you probably had to juggle some things to make that happen. So I appreciate it. Thank you for doing that.
No
Uh,
problem.
so, any last words of advice, wisdom that you want to leave the audience?
Yeah, start messy. Just do it. Aim for a B minus. I mean, like, get it out there and you can always improve it. Whatever that thing is, just do it. It's 80, mindset is literally 80% of everything. And the rest, that 20%, is just mentorship, mechanics. So find someone who you resonate with, who can help you with that 20% and do that thing you are meant to do.
I love that. Well, until next time, this is another episode of Reinventing Life After 50. And as always, this is to your health and success. Bye now.